afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series today, which is being sponsored by one of our newest corporate partners, SmartCover. SmartCover is a leader in providing real-time, continuous sewer system monitoring, which helps eliminate sewer spills, optimize maintenance, detect stormwater inflow, and prioritize capital repair needs. Really looking forward to hearing later from Corey Williams, the Chief Executive Officer of SmartCover. Today, we are going to discuss the emerging topic of maximizing efficiencies in the wastewater collection cycle. Every day here in the US, NAWC members are providing safe, reliable drinking water service to over 73 million homes and businesses. Our guiding principles showcase the importance of how investor-owned water utilities consistently meet and exceed the highest state and federal drinking water standards. And we support the towns and cities we serve, working hand in hand with local officials to operate, maintain, and manage complex water infrastructure assets. In the wastewater arena, NAWC member companies provide a wide range of treatment services. We do this through innovative solutions as part of our commitment to our stakeholders and the environment. Our conversation today is a timely one when you consider the fact that here in the US, we have the highest per capita water use in the world. However, we are facing some daunting challenges over the next decade. Groundwater is being depleted 25% faster than it's being replenished. And over the next decade, 40 states will face some type of water scarcity. The good news is NAWC member companies are driving that change and using technology to optimize every stage of the water cycle. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation here this afternoon and would like to also thank our panel for being part of today's program. Our first presenter is really someone who needs no introduction to this group, and that is my good friend and former NAWC colleague, Commissioner Mary-Anna Holden. Commissioner Holden was appointed by Governor Chris Christie and confirmed as a member of the New Jersey Board of Public Utility in January of 2012. She was reappointed by Governor Phil Murphy on April 2019. Commissioner Holden is the immediate past chair of the NAWC Committee on Water, and she also serves on the NAWC Board of Directors. One thing I worked very closely with her on during my NAWC presidency, she was a member of our Committee on the Military Workforce Development Task Force, where she played an instrumental role in helping us develop policies around the recruitment of our military personnel into our utilities. She is a member of the Jersey Waterworks Green Infrastructure Committee, the New Jersey Clean Water Council, and the National Council on Electricity Policy. Please join me in extending a warm NAWC welcome to Commissioner Mary-Anna Holden. Commissioner Holden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rob. I like the part where we're getting no introduction and you're not going to get one. I need none, so I'm not getting one, but thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Very excited in New Jersey. It's a new day between having a terrific president of our board, an understanding governor, a new director of water, and a new director of the Clean Energy Program. They were able to take all of this and put it together when the governor announced in January of 2020 the new Energy Master Plan and its pathway, and how it included water utilities in the Energy Master Plan. And I quote by saying, New Jersey should look to new energy saving opportunities in complementary sectors, such as the water sector, noting that energy costs associated with running pumps is one of the top 3 costs for water utilities in New Jersey. And this is something that wasn't new, certainly to me or anyone who has operated a water utility or a wastewater utility, that it's a tremendous amount of energy to deliver the product and also to cleanse the end product, to send it out as someone else's source water. To that end, I've been trying to convince the board, and as I said, until I had a new director of clean energy, that acoustical testing was going to be a way that we could more precisely target asset management. So you take care of the breaks, you take care of the leaks that you might think are developing instead of letting them become a major disaster. This year we have offered, now I've just opened up a program which closes by May 15th. It's just a pilot program. It's only 1.5 million of our clean energy budget, but we're looking to incentivize through a grant program the purchasing or renting of acoustical testing monitoring to help urban and older suburban communities that have at least 15% non-revenue water or water loss. This is at its inception, we expect the grant program to be less than $500,000 per each grant that's given, with 75% being given at inception and 25% upon completion and certain metrics being met. But we already know from some of the investor-owned utilities that have used this technology that billions of kilowatt hours can be saved. So we're really excited about how we can help meet the Clean Energy Act goals of Governor Murphy through attacking this huge water usage or usage of electricity. At the same token, we have a very successful distribution system improvement charge. I have to say, I give Rob Powelson credit. When he was president of the board in Pennsylvania, he had this very successful program. He said, well, why can't we do that here in New Jersey? And the legislature brought into it so we could find ways to speed up the infrastructure replacement in our investor-owned utilities. This wasn't lost on us as a board. We said, well, if we can do it so well and do it so successfully to increase infrastructure replacement for what? Drinking water, why can't we do it for wastewater? What weren't we thinking at the time? And having been in a community where, as most communities, the last thing you think of, the last thing you put on the agenda is, oh, this year we're going to have a capital plan to replace our wastewater system. It's just not done. It's one of those things that's let go until it breaks, until it's no longer functional, because when it becomes a health crisis. So I think you're going to hear from Corey later from SmartCover, who is one of the products that could perhaps increase the accuracy of asset management and help those communities that are combined sewer overflow communities to be able to predict where the fatbergs are in the pipes, after this pandemic and everyone's throwing their wipes into the and down the toilet instead of disposing them properly. Many communities are having a lot of problems with these clogs, undetected clogs that add to breakage. This will go part and parcel, could go part and parcel with our wastewater system improvement charge. And also, I have to say that it was a fight in that respect with our rate council, because they said, well, the DSIC, as we call the distribution system improvement charge, compared to the WSIC for the wastewater charge, said, well, there's no leakage. And I countered by saying, well, there's infiltration. You have the reverse of leaks. You have leaking into the system. You have inflow. You have stormwater. You have manhole covers that are maybe, decrepit. And so there are cross connections. And during the pandemic, we learned about a company that takes a look at the wastewater. There's really gold in that wastewater. By saying be able to, instead of spending a lot of money on testing, you can target and go to the wastewater treatment plant and say, is there COVID presence in the wastewater, and be able to more accurately target the need to quarantine areas of the town. And it was done very successfully in one particular area in New Jersey Institute of Technology. They were able to quarantine one dormitory instead of the entire campus by using this kind of technology. It maybe is very small program to start with, but I think you're seeing a larger trend growing in communities that are unable to manage wastewater treatment plants anymore, whether they can't provide the training, the cybersecurity, they can't get people to even work in a wastewater treatment plant. I think there's a lot of opportunity, and there should be more focus on the true gold that's in that wastewater.
Thank you, Commissioner Holden, and I look forward to our roundtable conversation here shortly. And also thank you for your leadership, not only in the Garden State, but on a national level. Clearly, as a former mayor of a town, you know a lot about water asset management and the important need to invest in water infrastructure and water sustainability, and always welcome your views. I want to take this opportunity before I introduce our next presenter. I want to thank a colleague from the great state of Delaware who's joined us, Commissioner Joanne Conaway. Commissioner, thank you for joining us today, and we will look forward to having you join our conversation here at the end. Our next presenter is a good friend of NAWC. It's our current chairman, Rob McLean, is the CEO of Southwest Water. And Rob has extended the invite to have Michael Cartin, who is the Director of Business Development for Southwest Water. And Southwest Water covers, they have a footprint that goes all the way from California to the eastern seaboard, parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, and potentially some assets in Florida. And Michael has worked in the regulated utility industry his entire career, beginning with working in the electric sector. And for the past 7 years, he's held various roles in the private water sector. I should note that he's a proud graduate of the University of South Carolina, where he earned an undergraduate degree in finance, and also followed that up with an MBA from the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. And I'm a proud, my nephew is a proud junior, and I have a niece that's going to be an entering freshman. So South Carolina is a hot school ticket, and it's a pleasure to welcome Michael Cartin to talk about the challenges in the acquisition of wastewater systems. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen here, so let me know if it looks okay. All right. Rob, thank you so much for the introduction. Super happy to speak here today. I've been a member of the NAWC for maybe 7 years, 6 years, and just a big fan of the association and the resources and the support they provide to our company and all our other members. So very happy to be here. When I was asked to speak today about efficiencies in wastewater, immediately my mind went to some reclaimed water stuff that we do in South Carolina that we're real proud of. And then I coupled that with the PGA Championship is 2 weeks away, which will be on Kiowa Island this year. So we're really excited about that. So I thought maybe on topic, it would be fun for us to talk about Kiowa Island Utilities, which is one of our utilities in South Carolina. We acquired Kiowa Island Utilities in 2016. It was the first utility that Southwest Water purchased in South Carolina. And since then, we've continued to grow and now own and operate 6 utilities in South Carolina. But today, I really want to focus on some of the some of the things we're doing on the island to maximize efficiencies and best serve our customers. So before we get started, I thought it'd be fun to do a little trivia question, because I know we've done a lot of Zoom calls the past 15 months. Really looking forward to the day where I get to see the members in person again soon, but I thought it'd be fun just to see who's really paying attention. Last time the PGA was held at Kiowa was 2012. And if anyone can put in the chat box who won that tournament in 2012 first, I will personally send you a PGA championship hat from the tournament this year. And Commissioner Holden, I'd like to note that the hat will be purchased and mailed at zero cost to our customers. So Heather, if you can just check the chat box and I'll follow up later. I'll shoot an email out. I just thought it'd be fun. I know we've done a lot of these Zoom calls, so.
I'm checking. Can I submit a name or am I disqualified?
Sure. Just want everybody honest here. So when we, I'll go back after and look at the chat. I'm sure, hopefully y'all all don't use Google, but anyways, I'll hop right into some of the things we're doing down at Kiowa Island, which we're really proud of and excited to talk about here today. All wastewater on the island is treated on site, and the treated effluent is then sold to all the golf courses, various golf courses across the island. The green component associated with reclaimed water is something that I think our shareholders were very excited about when looking at acquiring the utility. And it's something that we do very well, and as we've actually now doing it at other utilities in South Carolina and the Low Country as well. And at Southwest Water, we're stewards of the most precious resource, water. And when looking at acquiring Kiowa, that aligned perfectly with our mission, what they're about on the island too. So when I look at our reclaimed water operations, the biggest thing that stands out to me is what it's provided to our customers, which is sustainability and affordability, and allows us to be partners and be part of the communities that we serve. We're really proud to say that we have some of the lowest wastewater rates in the entire state on a remote, sea island. And the reclaimed water aspect makes that possible. So that's something that we've, harnessed our expertise in reclaimed water, and now we're doing it in various other areas of the state. And it's something we're really proud of, and thought it'd be, fun and on topic to talk about today with the PGA just being right around the corner. So it not only does it provide affordability and sustainability and, protects the resource, but also makes for some beautiful golf courses. Something we're really proud of and will continue to do in other areas. But that's not all we do at Kiowa Island to continue our commitment to protecting the environment and looking out for our customers. We just recently completed an AMI rollout. So we're the first private utility in South Carolina at Kiowa Island to have the whole system completely on AMI. And also very happy to say we just did our last billing with the new meters integrated into our SAP billing system. It went very well and has been met with a lot of positive reactions from our customers. So everyone's really excited to just learn more about the resource and their consumption, and better manage their expenses and just learn more about water. And so it's really been a good project, something we're really proud of, and we've been getting out in the community and spreading the word, and it's been really positive. So that's another project that we just recently finished at Kiowa Island, which will provide long-term, economic benefits to both, not just our customers, our shareholders, and the resort partners on the island as well. And then one other thing I wanted to just briefly touch on, that now that we have AMI kind of up and going, we're always trying to think of ways to be innovative, be proactive, and be leaders in the industry. That's what we're all about. And so one thing that we're we're in the very early stages of exploring is, the feasibility of electric vehicles and electric trucks. I think we're not far away from those being affordable. And I think we think as a company that Kiowa Island is the perfect pilot for something like that. We're looking at the cost effectiveness of solar charging stations for our vehicles at the plant, and providing electric vehicles on the island to lower our carbon footprint, to be good stewards of the environment, and continue our commitment to our customers and the community. So that's something else to look out for in the future. Some other ways we're doing, some other things that we're looking at to maximize our efficiencies, focusing on affordability, keeping rates down, but also being leaders in the industry. So just thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about our Kiowa Island utility with everything going on, and some of the neat stuff that we're working on down there. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone here today, and look forward to questions at the end.
Thank you, Michael. And I would like to take this opportunity, to say that the work that you have done, that your team, and I've shared this with Rob McLean on Kiowa Island, what many people don't realize is prior to Southwest taking over the system, it was run by a private developer, owned and operated by a private developer. And Southwest Water came in and invested millions of dollars, and actually you built some redundancy in water supply onto the island. And it's an amazing success story because this developer was unable to really run what we would consider a world-class water wastewater utility and invest in things like AMI, customer service, and the overall infrastructure of the system. And Michael and the team there at Kiowa Island Utilities has done a remarkable job turning this system around, and it really a national success story. So Michael, thank you for your presentation, and look forward to our conversation here at the end. Our next presenter, I'm proud to welcome Ryan Ural, who serves as the Director of Operational Excellence for American Water. American Water is the largest investor-owned utility here in the United States, and very active with the National Association of Water Companies. Ryan develops and implements organizational and operational excellence programs and strategies for American Water. He also leads activities and projects which support strategic and operational alignment, cooperation, communication across those operations, and ensures that American Water continues to grow and keep customers at the center of what they do. And they do it pretty well here in the US. And with that, I'm proud to welcome Ryan Ural for a presentation here today.
Thank you. And I'll just get my screen shared here. All right, there we go. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to review some of the ways that American Water has incorporated technology into our water and wastewater systems. And we utilize a mix of commercially available and internally developed products as we roll out them into our business. And we find that overall, all of our products have done in three areas: either improved our customer experience, improved or maintained our regulatory compliance, and improved our operational efficiency. And we rolled out quite a few technology products over the past few years, but today I'm just going to focus on two of them. The first, workflow management and customer information, and the second one would be components of a smart water or wastewater system. In this case, I'm going to focus on the wastewater one. So my first example is of our work management system, and this one focuses on our meter and service line work. And this is an internally developed product. and it provides our employees with relevant information on the appointment, and it also has improved how we assign and manage the work that we issue out to them. So looking at it here, you see the employee sees all their work for the day in a agenda line at the top and also down the side. They also see it mapped out so they know where they're going and along the way all their stops for the day. And it also gives them really easy access to information about the premise. So here on their work order, the example that they're going to, you see that it's got an external meter outside set. And it also see here that there's pets on site, and that the customer has asked us to call ahead before we arrive. So it's a way to get some personalized information on the customer and know the things in advance before the employee even gets onto the site. And they can also pull up from here the customer history, the interaction records, and see what issues they've had in the past, if they've called into the call center before, what the issues were, what all the notes were. So when they're out there, they have a full picture of what's going on, and they can see a high level view, but they can quickly dive in deeper if they need to. So this has really helped us on just managing that work that is, I'll say, like one of the most important work that we do, and the fact that it's the one that interacts the most directly with the customer. And it's also just helped streamline that because, you know, we all compete against the Amazon bar that's been set for us, and we see our package on the map, and we see when it's expected to arrive, and we, you know, what the customer has learned and kind of grown to appreciate and expect, we now are trying to carry that over into other aspects of their lives. So the next example I have is from our work order and asset management product that we have. This one also was internally developed, and I'll use it more as like an example of it. So when I was in the field still a few years ago in New Jersey, and the system that I worked in, we had a lot of sewer overflows. And so trying to address that, because it has two impacts. It impacts the environment and it impacts the customer. Trying to figure out a way to look at that, we could use the work order software and come in and map all of the work orders that fit the category sewer main overflow. You can see that here. So I have a little snippet of the map there from the screenshot. So we could see that there was a cluster of overflows that were in this area, and all these gray bars are apartments. This was a really large apartment complex. And so looking at each of these work orders, just by clicking on the icon, pulls up this little view here to get a high level quick read of it. But just by clicking the hyperlink would take us, you know, into the actual work order itself. And reviewing the notes on these overflows, almost all of them noted not gold, as the commissioner said was there. We didn't find any gold, but we did note the heavy grease and paper, and that was on a lot of those orders. So that helped us then work through the solution to that. And in this case, we did two pieces. We did a lot of customer outreach and education. We worked with the property management company to distribute to all of the residents a packet that had some grease can lids in it, and also an FAQ sheet on fats, oils, and grease, and why that should not be put down into the drain, to use a can, place this lid on the top of it, and then once the can's full, properly dispose of it. And we put a lot out onto social media about things that should and should not go down the drain or down the toilet. And also when we were out at outreach events in the community, we had pamphlets and handouts. But we had made a focus in this area in particular to educate the customer and to try to eliminate that problem. And then part two of that was, okay, we could target this area for enhanced cleaning and jetting and make that a more frequent stop for the Vector truck to come into. And we also started to look into doing an engineering study to see, based on the growth in this area, was this specific pipe undersized, or was it just related to the I'll say the habits of the customers, who what they were putting down there. And the third piece of that, the one that is the hardest in the past to measure, is what's happening inside the pipes. And so we looked at ways to monitor the flow and the level inside the manholes, because ideally, if we know that an issue is developing, as the commissioner said earlier, we know that that issue is developing, we could be more proactive to try to address that. And that's where the smart systems come into play and help us with that. And so here I have the photo. This is what we never like to see when you arrive to a call. And what we wanted to do is have a way to do monitoring of those sanitary sewer systems and to see what was happening, when it was happening. Was it timed to certain periods? Was it just a consistently high baseline flow? And so we looked at recently deploying these sensors throughout parts of the system. And right now we have about 38 of these deployed throughout New Jersey and in our military services group. And we're using those to help us see where the issues are, because the sensors will not only give us that like baseline view and see what's happening, but we can also get an alert when levels go higher than a certain spot, so we can do some proactive cleaning and rodding or jetting out there. And we're working with the vendor, SmartCover, to integrate their software into our work order management system, so that we have just one view of this all in one spot. So we don't have to have people go into one system for to see this information and then go into our work order management system or an asset management system. So we're working to have that pulled into one view for us. And what we found from it is that it gives us better operational efficiency, because we're not, the first reaction is, oh, well, we'll go out and we'll clean a lot. But how much is enough? You don't want to clean too much, and that's a waste of time and resources, but you also don't want to not do it enough and you have a problem develop. So this helps target that, to be able to see what areas need more enhanced cleaning and when that needs to happen. And it's also helped reduce non-compliance events. So by doing this in conjunction with outreach to our customers, we found that we have reduced overflows, and this is giving us eyes into the system to let us see what's happening and address it before it becomes a problem environmentally and to our customers, because no one likes to have a service line back up into their home or an overflow in the street. So this is one way to do that. And I'll hand back to Rob, because I think Corey's going to go into a little bit more information about this.
Thank you, Ryan, and I look forward to our discussion here shortly. Our next presenter is the president and CEO of SmartCover, Corey Williams. Corey joined SmartCover as president and CEO back in 2021. Been a leading force between a team of professionals implementing a suite of technology solutions serving collection systems across the United States. Along with his leadership abilities, he brings a strategic sense for industry innovation, partnership, investment, and obviously a steadfast commitment to water sustainability. It is with great pleasure to welcome Corey Williams here today to talk about proven technologies that can be used to prevent sewer spills and optimize sewer cleaning costs, as well as monitoring H2S while extending the life of these assets. So with that, I'd like to welcome Corey Williams to join us for his presentation. Corey?
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. And, all I can say is I'm going to try to round up Commissioner Holden and Michael and Ryan and just take them on the road with SmartCover for all the stuff that they're talking about, because makes it real easy, and it actually kind of speaks to the reason that SmartCover is truly in business. And I'll do my darndest to keep this about maximizing efficiency in wastewater collection, the topic of our talk, but it's kind of hard for me to do that as the president of SmartCover without talking about SmartCover a little bit. So apologies to everyone that I'm going to be a little SmartCover heavy here, but I'll do my darndest to make it a little more industry agnostic, and how the industry as a whole can be a little bit more proactive, as Ryan just mentioned. So a few things I think is important for us to think about is, kind of a little bit of the market perspective and just how bad things are actually out there in the broader world, particularly in North America. And some of the statistics on here, I mean, many of you will know, but I think there are some surprising things here. And I applaud, Ryan, what you all are doing with American Water, because you look at these statistics where 90% of water utility data, even to this day, as technologically advanced as we are, is still isolated in disconnected systems, right? And you have almost 70% of water utilities that have no visibility across their various components of their operation, right? They feel grossly underprepared. And to this day, we're still having 100,000 plus overflows a year. Yet, so despite all the technology, we still have all these things. And then we got the money really working against us in this industry, because there's a lot of problem, a lot of need, and very little money to cover that need. So a little bit about SmartCover and how I think we can kind of help in that equation, maybe eliminate some of the necessity of that massive capital funding. So SmartCover is a solution that's used by more than 500 utilities in North America. We're pretty much North American centric, and we have thousands of our units deployed. We're not a sensor company. We like to think of ourselves data and analytics. But we got some smart stuff out there, and it was awesome to see Ryan's presentation, because the graphics were SmartCover graphics. So really appreciate that. But that's the general picture of how our sensors drop down into the underneath the manhole. We've eliminated and saved, I should say, we've saved more than 40,000 spills. That's a massive number. Now, we've been around since 2005, so we've had a pretty good run up to doing that. But 40,000 spills have been avoided in North America using SmartCovers. It's that proactive thing that Ryan talked about, the ability to forecast the future with our analytics and with things that smart technologies like SmartCover can do to help predict what's coming down the pipe, so to speak. And dispatch a crew and get folks out there before we have a public problem, before we have a notice of violation, and before we spend a lot of money on fines. All of our stuff has been engineered specifically for sewers. And one of the, I think the unique things is that we're using the satellite communications backbone, which is military. It's DoD uses it, so it's not going anywhere. And we talk about some of these technologies that are out there, not just in manholes, but throughout the collection system, that are becoming a problem because they're still on 2G or 3G cellular communications. So, one of the things that satellite does is help us avoid that problem. The other big thing that it does is, in the middle of a hurricane, or if you happen to live in Texas and you experience some cold weather that you've never experienced before, and cell towers and power goes out in those communities, all of a sudden, you know, if I'm on those backbones, my stuff stops working. So the one nice thing about the satellite is it doesn't go down during the hurricanes or the power outages and those kinds of things. So really, really robust and reliable in that regard. So all of these things kind of combine to give you this ability to really understand what's going on in the infrastructure, not only predictively, but in a real time, say, let's call it near real time aspect, not only for the prevention, but also let's think about things like our operations and the cleaning optimization, right? Instead of going out routinely, this is what a lot of SmartCover's customers, they're able to cut out 90+% of their routine cleaning. Right now, I caution you that, you know, 83% of statistics are made up on the spot. And I just told you that we're eliminating 90% of cleaning, but you can believe that 90% of cleaning because it's reported to us from our particular customers. We're 90 to 95% of routine cleaning removed. I&I detection is a big deal. As you all know, right, you're paying by the foot for CCTV and for other inspection technologies. So we, SmartCover, we don't do that. We don't go and look in the pipe and find the anomalies, but what can we do? We can use these technologies like SmartCover to limit and find where's the best place for us in the system. Can we knock down the number of feet that we have to do CCTV or other things on and minimize our cost? So a lot of good things that come out of just a few sensors distributed out into the collection system to give us some better insight, that instant infrastructure and that visibility of that instant infrastructure when it's out there, right? This is just a quick picture of some of the insight that our customers are able to get. Where's our alarms? Where's our alerts? What's a pending real problematic situation? Where should we be generating a work order, right? If we think about Ryan's presentation, communicating that through, and again, I applaud that broad visibility that American Water clearly has to their folks. So this is data that would feed systems like that, or other things that your utility might have in place, work management, work order type systems, those types of things. So getting those alerts, those alarms, et cetera, into a way that it can be consumed. And by the way, the better is if we can do that in a mobile platform, right? SmartCover happens to have a mobile app, but others we can integrate to, and you say, okay, well, I'm out in the field and I want to know and I want to be able to respond immediately. So just a quick look at our trending here. This is the trending that says, hey, something's happening out there, right? I'm getting a high level advisory as that flow starts to be coming up. Might be a pending spill, might just be that I need to schedule a work order for somebody to go out and do a cleaning. So all of those kinds of things covered by our analytics, right? So you'll notice here, 3 weeks prior to the cleaning, I'm starting to notice, right? So plenty of advance warning if you're thinking about predictive things and these efficiencies. I'm not rushing around. I'm not running crews all over town. I can be efficient and say, yep, I'm going to schedule that out. I'll do a number of things in the same location, and we'll stop to having to do that super reactive approach. So just a quick case study here. So one of these unexpected events, it's 2 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day. And, a drunk driver, imagine that at 2 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day, knocks down some power poles and boom, lift stations go out, no power. And all of a sudden we're facing spills because those lift stations are without power. So being able to use generators and using SmartCover to triage those sites. Where's my problems? I only got 2 generators, but I got to get around to everything. And how can I do that? How can I best hit that? Where's it really coming up? What am I doing? All that real-time stuff, instead of the guesswork or the, we don't know what to do. We set the generators up at our best guess and we end up with a spill. So, hey, let's keep New Year's happy for everybody. Even though we've had this problem, we avoid all of the spills. So last thing, just quickly, I mentioned the I&I and being able to shrink that down because we're doing it. One thing to think about on I&I, we're always concerned about that. We're all worried about that, but it's not just where's our greatest volume, it's what's having the biggest impact, right? And this is where technology can help, right? I might be having a high volume, but if it's not doing if it's not impacting, then maybe I can prioritize differently. Not suggesting we don't repair, but remember, we got limited funds. How could I best prioritize? So again, just a quick spin here through SmartCover. I appreciate that it's a little bit commercial there, and so apologies on that, but it's, I think, a good example of how one or two types of technologies actually have a very broad impact on overall efficiency. So Rob, with that, I'll turn it back over to you and hope that I stuck with my time.
Corey, great job. And you are allowed to do any type of self-promotion as a great sponsor of NAWC. So you appreciate that. And want to give a shout out before we jump into our panel to Mike Horner from NAWC, along with John Marashugi for his support. John and Mike were very instrumental in pulling us together here today for our conversation. I thought Commissioner Holden and Corey set it up nicely, this conversation on what we consider the water energy nexus. And it's I'm going to Corey, you were throwing some stats out, so I'm going to throw a couple out to the group and get into the conversation. But it's estimated that just a 10% reduction in energy used by water and wastewater facilities would save about $400 million per annum in utility costs, or about 5 billion kilowatt hours annually nationwide. You overlay that in the spirit of just a 3 to 4% reduction in energy usage nationally would produce over 45 trillion tons of greenhouse gas emission reduction. So, it's pretty timely. I know New Jersey Commissioner Holden has done a lot with its energy master plan with clean technology investment and the initiative that you spoke to on water loss and how that is so important. So I guess the question for everybody is, I think, and having two regulators on the call, this is a good segue, the importance of considering the deployment of these type of new technologies and the impact they have on overall, we'll call it utility optimization. Michael, Ryan, your thoughts. I mean, you interface with a number of key external stakeholders in your service territories, and it's not your old utility model anymore. Technology is changing the way you interface, as Ryan showed, the way you interface with your customers. It's not really just a monthly bill anymore, and customers have high expectations of their utility. So a lot to digest in that statement, but I guess I'll come back to what are some of the things to consider if you're thinking about deploying new technologies in your local service territories, and how to get customers to embrace it.
I'll start with that one.
Go ahead.
I think the first thing to look at really is, like, what's your value case? Like, what are you trying to get out of it? Is it a shiny object that you're just pursuing, or like, what is the business case for it, and what's the best way to address it, and looking at what the costs are related to that. And I keep that in mind because it's never really, it's never really our money. It's the ratepayers' money, shareholder money, and we have to be very specific how we use that and do it in a way that gives us a lot of value for it. And so I think looking at that first thing, asking the hard question of, like, what are we really accomplishing by doing this? And then I think leading into the next one is the data, and having that a really hard look at your systems and say, where's the data coming from? What quality is it? Like, to map that data out and see how it's going to be used, who needs to use it, because a lot of these systems almost every system like runs on the data. That's the fuel for it. And depending on how well that data is organized and how valid you have, how much confidence you have in it, really all has to go into play too. And then the last one I'd say is probably like the end user experience, like, thinking about like the technologies we've deployed, the ones that have been the most successful are the ones that have the user engaged in it and understanding what it is that, how are they going to use it in the field or in the office, and how it impacts them. Like, what are their pain points that you could solve by rolling this out and getting their buy-in into that. I think those would be the ones that we think of the most.
Yeah, I think you answered that perfectly, Ryan. One thing I'd add is, where I've seen the most success too, it comes with this proactive communication, and being consistent in your communication, and getting way ahead of it and getting questions answered before that smart meter's put in their yard. That's really paid dividends for us on our last AMI rollout. But you can never. Some people might not want to hear from you, but the ones that do, just give them that attention and being proactive in your communications.
I'll tell you, the electric industry learned some valuable lessons with the deployment of advanced metering infrastructure. I remember it was probably one of those game changers for me as a new commissioner. Pennsylvania, like many other states, had adopted AMI deployment, or what we call smart meters. And to your point, Michael, the communication with the customer was so critically important, because believe it or not, customers, anytime you change out a meter set, they have a lot of questions as to why and how I benefit from this. And we averted a big crisis in Pennsylvania. And I'll tell you quickly, and we'll jump back into the conversation. We almost, with this rollout of technology, there was a movement, a grassroots movement, to allow customers to opt out of having smart meters deployed, which would be a disaster in terms of just capturing efficiencies. And so we had to push back against our legislature to not allow for any type of opt out of the meter. And luckily we did that. I used to joke though, you deploy smart meters and they were supposed to help drive efficiencies like restoring power when the grid went down, helping with billing. And then I used to joke that it's not a good thing to call it a smart meter and then have a dumb rate structure behind it. So on the electric side, we moved quantum leaps to get customers who were able to shop in the retail energy and gas market to get a 2-day read on the meter so they could go out and shop. But I'll tell you, it's been a game changer having this type of technology out there. And believe it or not, here it is. With this device, you can't see it, it's getting wiped out here with the backdrop, but my iPhone and the interconnection of devices in the home, along with the utility assets, it's amazing how customers want to engage water, gas, and electric usage. So let's, Commissioner Holden, you've been on this rodeo quite a long time, not only as a PUC commissioner, but as a mayor. And you've seen it on both sides, how important leak detection, the adoption of energy efficiency, you mentioned it earlier, investment in cyber and physical security, and technologies that help advance operational excellence. And as we know that, water is indispensable for energy production. So without it, we learned a valuable lesson more recently in Texas, but this whole conversation that you've had in New Jersey with President Friedaliso, Governor Murphy, where do you see this all headed? Is there a really good adoption rate of customers that want to see these technologies deployed? And your thoughts, your words of wisdom as a regulator, how companies should go about discussing these technologies with you and your technical staff at a commission?
We have a very open atmosphere. willing to learn about new things, be proactive to new tools. And I want to just have a little disclosure here. I'm not here promoting SmartCover. It's just one of the great technologies I see out there, but always looking for a way to engage the municipalities, because we don't regulate municipal water or wastewater systems, only the investor-owned utilities. And that seems to be the forgotten infrastructure, yet it's the largest portion of the infrastructure, whether it's a municipal system or a utilities authority. And to be able to help them, because we have something called the Water Quality Accountability Act in New Jersey, to be able to attack or put together an asset management plan. Some of these technologies will really help pinpoint and prioritize work could be done. So I'm not pushing one tool over another. I've talked to and worked with the Israeli Water Authority. We're very interested in some of their satellite technology and leak detection. I talked to a company in Florida and what they're doing with their groundwater pumping and a sort of self-cleaning to the screens of groundwater, and what the savings is, again, in energy by being able to deploy this kind of technology. So, once bitten, I never get that mayor out of my blood. And I'm always trying to think, well, how can we help municipal systems to do things better? It's not just, just leave them out there hanging until they become a distressed system and have to be rescued by another company or another utility authority, or combine regionally. What can we do to help them? And I think also the cost of production, just the variable cost of production in New Jersey, to put in perspective, the median value is $517 per million gallons compared to $425.60 per million gallons nationwide. So you're always looking for how you're going to save money, or take that, as Susan Story used to say at American Water, for every dollar I can save in O&M, I can put that to $8 in CapEx. So it's something you can use to leverage. But I think we have a lot of opportunity in looking at some of these technologies, not only energy-wise, but I just want to throw in another little mayoral tidbit. The SmartCover, I think you covered it briefly about the hydrogen sulfide you're able to detect. That's so important. I have seen a friend of mine's brother was a firefighter, went down into a confined space to rescue a DPW worker in a sewer line, did not have his Scott pack on, just went in on emotion, and didn't have the detect of the hydrogen sulfide. And he and another firefighter and the DPW worker were killed. The canary in the coal mine. So there's a lot of other ancillary pieces to some of this technology we haven't talked about that's good for communities. And certainly I can certainly relate to the Black Swan event. I've been through 2 Black Swan events. Christmas Eve, how many times could that happen? 2 years in a row. The same asbestos cementous pipe went in the high rent district of town, sewer leak on Christmas Eve. Oh, that was delightful to deal with. Probably why I didn't get reelected as mayor, but I had to borrow pipe from another town. But if this technology maybe had been available at that time, or we were just better at asset management, of which my borough engineer was right on top and said, we're going to GIS this whole system, we could have avoided some of these problems instead of relying on the fellow that was 100 years old that remembered when the pipe had been put in and what kind and where it was. So, technology is a great friend and a great money saver. And, we're only scratching the surface talking about some of them today.
And I want to pick up on that topic. To your point, you also were at the forefront of the Hurricane Sandy restoration. And, we learned lessons from these weather-related events. And believe it, believe me, some of them have had devastating impacts, not only to our economy, but the regions they've impacted. And so, Corey, I look more recently to the events in Texas when the weather events kind of, the hurricanes that hit back in the 2018 timeframe in Texas, and the post-mortem conversation about, they had a lot of sewer overflow, and obviously power loss. And we talk about, and Michael, you can jump in here as well as Ryan, we talk about water grid resiliency. So I want to step back, and Corey, water grid resiliency, some would say, is in the eye of the beholder. For me, it's about having technologies that can help with better land use planning. So I'd love to pick up on this topic. I mean, Michael, Kiowa Island, eastern seaboard, right there in a hurricane zone. How much value do you all put in looking at this whole notion of your grids and your water assets in terms of overall investment and resiliency?
Well, Rob, it's funny. I often think of the quote from the great philosopher Mike Tyson, who was one time interviewed.
I didn't have him in college, but I think I know who you're referring to.
He was one time interviewed about Evander Holyfield having a plan to beat him, and he says everybody has a plan until you're punched in the mouth.
Yep.
And then I think we've maybe all heard that, but it reminds me, frankly, a lot of what happens in water, right? We have these wonderful disaster recovery plans and these wonderful plans of things that are going to, well, here's how we're going to handle it. And then we get 10 days of freezing temperatures in Texas that no one ever foresaw. No one believed below zero in San Antonio, 18 inches of snow. How is that going to happen? It's not going to happen. Well, it did happen, right? And so now all of a sudden these plans and we're thinking about tornadoes and we're thinking about drought, but we've never thought about freezing temperatures. And so the idea of having systems that sort of are independent of whatever that disaster might be, right? That can continue to provide you information. Does it solve the problem? Does it solve 50 inches of rain in Houston? Nope. But can it inform you as community leaders, as city leaders, as mayors, as elected officials about what's physically going on out in the environment, right? Think about LA and earthquakes. How about seismic detection on my manhole covers to know right where the problems might be, right? How about elevated manholes? We have a thing called Storm Sentry that is we've essentially built a steel box and we put our SmartCover unit in it. And so it's deployed in the coastal communities so that as the water comes in, we're getting the level of the water out there. We're not just looking at, television cameras and those kinds of things. It's the information, I think, that's the key for decision support to those elected officials and those utility leaders. It's not that we're actually physically getting rid of the rain or solving the earthquake. It's getting that information and knowing that we're going to get it under any circumstance. So that's one thought I have to that. And then I'll leave it for others to comment.
Well, when I think about resiliency, and obviously we own a couple of coastal systems, resort towns, part of our value proposition as a company to the Kiowa resort partners and the other ones is that being part, while we're very much local leaders, boots on the ground as part of the community in Kiowa, we have access. That's why regionalization of these smaller systems is such a great thing, because we have the resources and the plans in place to where when you do get punched in the mouth, we are prepared and we can pull resources from other areas. So we have a deep roster of engineers and operators in Birmingham and Columbia that can come down and help out. So our employees can take care of their families and make sure that they're safe. And, some of the resiliency isn't all in infrastructure, it's personnel as well. And that's something that we talked about a lot when looking at acquiring different systems on the coast.
And that has certainly gotten more heightened attention. Obviously, Corey, you alluded to it. And Michael, I talked to Rob McLean, the events in Texas. I mean, obviously, no one could have predicted the catastrophic impact to the electric power sector, but yet the cascading events it had over in our sector, where you couldn't get diesel supply, you couldn't move in mutual assistance crews just because of the ice on the highways. And so you had manpower issues, and it's so, we sometimes overlook it. Now I'm beginning to come to the realization that as we interface with regulators, the importance of talking about resiliency and how technologies can play a key role in obviously not averting the events, but helping us better manage and back up these assets during these events. So let me shift gears. We talk about adopting innovation in the wastewater utility space, and obviously there's challenges, but we've found over time technology and customer acceptance always drive the narrative. And so how can utilities best foster innovation by their current and future suppliers? And I guess what I mean by that is, as you're identifying technologies, and Commissioner Holden, I think you set it up nicely. Regulators always like to hear a good story around, hey, I'm trying to reduce my unaccounted for water, AKA leaky pipes. And so love to get everybody's thoughts on that and how we drive that conversation.
I would kind of tag on to what Mike had said earlier with communication, because that's on both sides, like both in telling our story to regulators and municipalities, customers about what we're doing and why those things are important and what value they add to the customers or to the business in efficiencies, is a lot of it because these things are so new that a lot of times our customers or the regulators may not really understand what they are or know about them. So taking a lot of time to make sure that they do know what those are and that this is something that we offer and it's why we want to do it and what value it adds. But then communication internally too, because you can have an amazing product, and if you roll it out and internally it's not being used or used correctly, like being able to make sure that the employees understand why we're doing this and what training they need and that they feel comfortable using it, because if it's poorly or incorrectly adopted by the business, we won't see the value out of it that we were hoping to get. So I would agree with Mike that communication is really key to that.
Ryan, if I could jump on that, I think it's a really, really good point about the technology that's deployed. The technology works, but then the users, the workers can't make use of it or don't make use of it because it isn't properly communicated. And I think I was talking to a utility the other day, and a wonderful lady that I was speaking to said, and I'll try to get her quote correct, but she basically said, we're too busy solving the problem to find a solution. And it really struck me that, in that communication piece is how does it actually make my life better? I might have to get over an initial bump in extra time or learning the new technology, but will it give me a downstream, no pun intended, effect to help me? Right? Because I'm so busy solving problems, and then you're giving me this new technology that's a solution, but I'm too busy to learn it, to adopt it. So it's a real struggle. And I think that your point about communicating with the employees and the folks that are going to have to use it is really well taken.
I want to add, though, that it's very important that while technology is a great driver, could be a great money saver, it's those events, those outages, when the technology doesn't work, when knowing the old ways and being able to run things analog sure help and manually. So you shouldn't discourage that training as well.
Well said. So we've got about 5 minutes here, and I think we've covered a lot of topics, but let's continue on with the conversation. And, I'm going to start with some additional factoids. Let's think about everyday examples of water use here in the country. It takes 40,000 gallons of water to produce one automobile. It takes 2,110 gallons of water to make one pair of shoes. It takes 19 gallons of water to grow one apple. And so, we talk about this in terms of, what we've just come through. And bless us all, we've come through COVID, hopefully learned a lot of lessons, but I think there's a lot of optimism in the air right now with vaccinations and people getting back to networking. And, I love Zoom, but I really want to see people in person. But that being said, let's talk about, what do you see as the biggest challenge? And Ryan and Michael, you could probably address this, and Commissioner Holden, biggest challenge you face when you're trying to acquire a wastewater system that's woefully underinvested in. And we're not even talking about technology. We're just talking in terms of having engineering capacity to run the system. And Ryan, you could pick up on this because you guys have acquired a lot of drinking water and wastewater systems. But what do you see as big challenges when you go in and you look under the hood and you're looking to acquire these assets?
Mike, do you want
Okay,
to go first?
Brian, I always say affordability is something I look at right away. We don't want to have a reputation as someone who comes in and just jacks up rates, warranted or not. So affordability is an obstacle that we face consistently, and having the talented workforce and the expertise in that area is also an obstacle that I commonly see with acquiring wastewater utilities. So those are probably the two biggest ones.
And I think, again, like what you had mentioned earlier with resiliency and just the resources, like we had an issue at one of our facilities out of that ice storm, and I sit on our enterprise crisis response team, and we sent a team down there to help get them back online. And I feel like that's one of the big advantages of the larger investor owns, or just the larger systems in general, because you have that bench strength to pull from either people, manpower, resources, knowledge, and have a lot more brain trust than a smaller standalone would.
Yeah, I think you've both hit on it, that workforce capacity, engineering, safety culture, economies of scale, and the efficiencies that you bring when you run these systems. You bring Walmart buying power, but behind that is the people to run the systems and meet the compliance metrics, which I know regulators, and Commissioner Holden, you can pick up on this. When we have today in the US 1,500 drinking water systems, largely public, that are in violation of the Safe Water Drinking Act, it's an alarming statistic. And we go about what I call doing the boring good every day as industry leaders to exceed compliance metrics. So, well, we've covered a lot of good topics here today. I'd be remiss in not thanking Heather. I see Heather up on my far left screen, but Heather Towsley with SmartCover. She also was instrumental in helping us put together today's program. I want to thank her personally, and our panelists here today. Really good conversation. I think this is a conversation, Commissioner Holden, that we will tee up hopefully at a NAWC meeting. Looking forward to introducing Corey Williams to the broader NAWC community. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you for your continued active engagement with NAWC. Stay safe, and looking forward to seeing everybody here soon in person. Thank you.